something that I hadn't remembered until you brought it up, but can you tell me what you just said about the woolly worms?
Yeah, so for the last couple of months, my team has been analyzing the woolly worms, as you do, as any farmer in North Carolina with a brain in their head would do. And so we've been looking at them, right? So the more red spots on them, the shorter the winter, the more black spots. It's going to be a long winter. Well, this year was noticeable as we've seen more like fully black woolly worms than we've ever noticed before. And it's kind of funny because it's an independent realization. We don't want to bias each other, so we all came to the table like, well, what did you observe this year? And we all came like, oh my god, they're all black. It's going to be a long winter. And so it's so cool that the snow is already hitting the ground. The second week of November, and you can't beat woolly worms for weather prediction. Everybody thinks the groundhog is where it's at. Nah, it's the woolly worms. Really, they're the ones you got to listen to.
It's woolly worms, and that actually brings me to my first question. Well, but before I get into questions, we may as well get into introductions first. Hello, y'all. I am Scotty Oakenlake, Gathering Elf, and I am super excited to introduce one of our favorite mead people, Nico from Stardust Meadery.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me. So the woolly worms brings me to my first question. So, for you, where are you from? Where's your background? Where did you grow up?
Yeah, not in the snow. So I actually grew up in San Diego, a little different environment. So I worked in the biotech pharmaceutical, hub in between San Francisco and San Diego, for a while. And so that's a lot of my background is in biotech. And then I ended up going to Washington State, to study wine microbiology within the food science department. So that's what I did in grad school. It was actually microbiology and food science that were my focuses. And luckily, I got to play around in the wine playground. At the time, nobody had ever really done mead. I mean, there's really not much mead research going on in America, and so I devoted my grad school to wine wholly. And so that's about my background. I ended up wanting to start my own winery and meadery somewhere, and just did a lot of research, looked around all around the country at what options are out there, and North Carolina just wins hands down. We've got a really amazing environment here for growing grapes, and the cool thing is the only reason people haven't heard of North Carolina as a dominant wine growing region is because of prohibition. I mean, we actually ruined the wine economy here, because tobacco was on the up and up. Wine looked like, well, it's prohibition. What's the point of holding these on, for 14 years or whatever, And so it just happened in North Carolina. We removed our grapes, replaced them with tobacco, and made a ton of money, and it was great. But we kind of lost a little bit of our culture, and so we're kind of this younger group here. We're out here trying to reclaim that and bring North Carolina back to the forefront of American, grape growing and all that. And at the same time, the other cool thing about North Carolina is it has some of the best honey in the world, in abundance. Where we're at in Wilkes County, every hilltop has a bee colony, somebody's tending to, and it's very grassroots. A lot of small beekeepers. We're like an army of beekeepers out here, and we mean business, and it's kind of wild. So we kind of do things our own way a little bit. But we have our different beekeepers associations. Like every county has their own beekeepers groups, and it's just kind of amazing. So there's something brewing out here that nobody else knows about yet so much. But us and a group of other merry mead makers out here are starting to write the book on what Appalachian mead can be, and I think we're gonna blow California and the North and all those guys out of the water. I don't think they even realize what we're about to do to them. It's kind of fun to watch.
No, you're exactly right. And you guys are uh, the bee's knees when it comes to this type of bee's nest.
Yeah, that's right.
Which what you were saying, which is fascinating. I love your amazing background and how you came to be in North Carolina. And one of the things that Tanya and I were talking about was how unique you guys are in the sense of the meaderies in North Carolina are such a community that's banded together. So
Yeah.
can you share more about what it's like to be part of the mead community?
It's really awesome. I'll be honest with you. I don't know of any industry that's as cool as this one. I've worked in a lot of them. I mean, biotech, pharmaceuticals. I worked in tobacco for 7 years for RJ Reynolds. That kind of paid the bills for the first 7 years of Stardust operation. And everything's it's the grind. It's all the grind. There's just such a bent towards profits above all, and there's not a lot of creativity left in the science world. Unfortunately, it's all about profits above people, and that sucks. And The meat industry is just a totally different take. And honestly, I compare it to the wine industry. The wine industry, everyone's secretive. They kind of hold onto their little secrets, and it's kind of weird. The beer industry, everyone loves everybody, and it's great. But the economy is starting to tank, and breweries are starting to kind of fight each other. And you're seeing lawsuits going left and right. Everybody's suing everybody to survive, and it's getting brutal. And then here in this meat world, we got this really cool thing going where we're camaraderie first, people first, money second, which maybe is a problem. We got to kind of think about a little bit here, but for long-term sustainability, we're starting to kind of figure out how to make things work, revenue and profitability wise, which is tough because we got a really expensive ingredient to work with. But the thing is, we work together and we share knowledge, and we're all in it together. It's like we're all on this giant sinking ship, but the us mead makers all realized that we could plug the holes, and if we all work together, we could actually plug all the holes faster than we sink. And so we started really working together. And so we got this alliance, the NC Meat Alliance, going, and we've been at it. And we meet every quarter, all the meaderies in North Carolina. We all come to one place, and we chat everything, marketing, events, like how do we survive? How do we make money? And survival means a lot of things. Like how do we survive COVID? How do we survive, tariffs? How do we survive, the economy and people's changing, wallet sizes, and and we've really restructured and grouped together to position ourselves in a way where you can start taking market presence on the shelves, and you'll start seeing more and more North Carolina mead, in your local bottle shops, and it's just really cool. So it's awesome to be part of a group where everybody, if you find something that can make your meadery better, you share it with everyone else. And a lot of people have this, scarcity mentality where, oh, if this guy's got, something or doing well, he's taken away from me. Well, the meat industry is growing at such a rate that it's actually set to go. Right now, it's about $500-600 million a year in the market, and we're set by 2032 to hit roughly 2.2 billion. And so the game is like, well, can we take that market cap and just share it amongst ourselves? And honestly, we're all a bunch of pirates, so we're like, hell yeah, let's plunder this shit and let's just share it, and so rising tide, we're all going to go up together as ships, and it's pretty awesome. So I love being part of it. We're talking constantly. We all are chatting on the Discord channels. We got a listserv, emails going. We meet all the time, and we see each other at events. And when we go to festivals, you know what we do? We don't say, "Oh, I wish we were the only meaderies to make all the money." We go to the manager and we say, "You know what? I think you guys could have two more meaderies." And the funny thing is, we do that at every festival. And now a lot of these festivals that are trying out mead, you'll start noticing multiple meaderies, and we're all doing great. We're like, oh man, 5 years ago, we are making like $300 a festival and calling it a good day. Now so many people love mead. Heck, we're walking away with $1,000 on a Saturday, and all of us are. And like the more the merrier. And it's in the Ren fairs. Oh my God, the Ren fairs are growing like 300% a year. It seems like at some of these places. So we're like, heck, the more the merrier. Let's do this thing. And then on top of that, we're all specializing in our own styles of mead. So like, we've done really well with the bubbly meads. That's our thing. Sparkling is my favorite flavor. And so, we and so we do really well right next door to the still meaderies, that have these really awesome classic, still 750 ml bottles. Here we are with like our draft meads and whatever. And, we got our ancestral style meads, which we're the only people on the planet doing. And so it's kind of fun. We all fit into these different boxes, and we work together like amazingly. So it's been amazing. It's not something I would have ever expected to ever experience in my life, and it's the best feeling. And we have each other's back, so that's incredible.
I love everything you've said about just how tight knit this community is, because I feel like every time we have someone as a guest, it's all about the community and how amazing it is.
Mhm.
So, what you said about the Ren Fair has me curious. What do you think it is about the Ren Fair and Mead that has made it? Because you talked about some huge numbers, and huge number predictions. So, what do you think is the magic ingredient there?
Well, It's honestly, it's our in, right? Like we didn't have an in before. Mead just kind of sat in the peripherals. Only a few nerds knew about mead for a long time. And then something started to happen where, like, historical reenactment became more popular in the 60s, 70s, around that era. And then, a few different small, Ren fairs started popping up. And then there was a meadery that kind of caught on to that, another meadery that kind of caught on to that, and they built it up. And we're talking 1970s. So we're talking Chaucer's, Langenor. We've got, there's only like a few meaderies. Like we got Maryland meadery, and then these guys kind of started figuring out, plugging it in, and helping it expand. And next thing you know, there's multiple, Ren fairs popping up in every state, and the demand for mead kind of kept with it. So it's almost like the first few Ren fairs, they kind of got involved with mead as a historical, cool concept. They're like, "Ooh, this is what we were doing in the medieval times. Like, check out this reenactment piece." And so it kind of got embedded, almost like it was something going into the DNA of the Ren Fair, and Mead just kind of stuck it out. And so we were almost like an inserted gene, just kind of floating in the genome of our DNA. And so it was really cool to see the history of it, because really from the 1970s until, I mean, really the mid 2000s, really, craft mead was not really a thing. It was more finding that traditional historical, bottle of still, very simple, very simplistic mead. Just it was good enough to work at a Ren Fair. And so, you have, God, from 1970 to 2008, really, when there really wasn't much of a big craft mead scene. And then, one started opening up, a couple here, a couple there. In North Carolina, you had Starlight and Honey Girl, and a few others. And I mean, we came along. I think we were the fourth or fifth, maybe, yeah, around there, meadery. I'm not sure. And then, it started really growing in the last 4 or 5 years. And now I think we're over 24 meteries now in the state, and that's really cool. And everybody has the ability to get into these Ren fairs because it's so entrenched in the idea that there's multiple Ren fairs, and all the meteries kind of flock to all these Ren fairs and make tons of money because people go there ready to throw money down. So it's been really good. And yeah, and it's something that we want to keep doing, is the meaderies have a large stake in it. And honestly, that's where a lot of meaderies, that's where most of their money came from. And really that was the case up until a few years ago. And then finally just a few years ago, we finally start seeing distribution really take off. And Superstition, Bee Nectar, St. Ambrose, they've really led the charge with large, national distribution. And honestly, on that list, the only one with all the whole nation is Superstition. So, the others have, 30, 40. Moonlight is up there too. They've got like 40 something states. And then, after those ones, it's kind of the smaller players. You have a few states here and there, but it's growing. So for, 40, 50 years or what have you, it was predominantly Ren fairs. That was where the money was at. And so people focused all in. They were all in. Like all those eggs were in that basket. Chaucer's makes like what, one mead or something? And they
Yeah.
just make that one, but they make millions and millions of dollars a year. I think it's one of the most, at least one of the top three meads in sales in America, because they own the Ren Fair circuits. If you go to the North Carolina Ren Fair, are they selling North Carolina mead? Nope, they're not. They're selling Chaucer's. Why? Because Chaucer's got in early. They sealed the deal. They got all those sweet contracts in. And now all us new meaderies are kind of stuck a little bit because we can't get into the big epic festivals like the North Carolina Renaissance Festival. So what do? We start our own festivals. We have our own mead fests that are ran by the meaderies, for the meaderies, and for the people. But and so we've kind of got this almost underground Ren Fair thing going. And these are these smaller Ren fairs, like Norse Forge is a great example. ENC Ren Fair on the East Coast is a great example. And so, you're starting to see these smaller Ren fairs adopt local meaderies. And you're starting to see these smaller Ren fairs get big, big, big really fast because there's a lot of stakeholders. And when you have a lot of stakeholders, like local North Carolina businesses who are trying to get together and make it successful, that's where things really start rolling. I'd say years until these small Ren fairs start really giving a run for their money for the North Carolina Ren Fair. But when that happens, it's going to be an amazing thing, because now North Carolina meaderies are going to start really making money, and we're on that trajectory. So that's kind of a long answer to that question, but
No, that is an excellent
yeah.
answer. And I feel like I have learned so much about the mead community just here alone, which is incredible. So you mentioned that the smaller, more local circuits is kind of where it's at. And I was first introduced to you through Norse Forge Gathering,
Mhm.
and as soon as someone tastes one of your meads, they will 100% understand exactly where you're coming from. Of the why it's in such high demand because it's so good. So that being said, how did you get introduced to Norse Forged and the Gathering, and how did you guys come to be such awesome partners?
Yeah, I mean, I can link that back to one of my earlier statements that meadery's got meadery's backs, right? So one of my good friends, Daniel, at Moonjoy, they actually got us in, right? So it was really just a friend helping us out, getting us into the right festival, and we do really well together because I make the lower alcohol bubbly stuff, and he makes the ridiculously high alcohol stuff that'll put you on your face, and we're a really good combo.
You're exactly right. It is a great
Yeah.
combo. Coming from someone I no longer have a gallbladder, so alcohols with me are kind of touchy, but mead
Sure.
consistently has been one of the easiest ones in terms of digestion.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um, can you share a little bit about that? Like why
absolutely.
that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, so here's a cool thing. I mean, humans have evolved with honey, right? I mean, it's been around longer than we have, and it's been an integral part of our diet at different points in our survival. There's times where all the crops get wiped out, but what are you left with? A whole bunch of reserves of honey, right? So, anytime that human civilization or hunter-gatherers or what have you had just a really bad, difficult year or time, what do you have? You got a bunch of collected things that have survived the seasons. You've got, dry, desiccated things. You've got nuts, you've got honey. Here in America, you had maple syrup, for example, and that's another commodity that's really useful. And what do you do when you got nuts and you got syrup or honey? You combine them, right? And you make bars, you make energy bars. And so, thousands and thousands of years ago, humans were eating energy bars just like we are today. And so honey has been part of our gut and part of our health for a long time. What's really cool, and I actually do a lot of research in this field of microbiome work. We evolved with the actual microbes that live in honey, and a lot of these are really important. So a lot of medicinal, research papers talk about lactobacillus, for example. Lactobacillus is indigenous to honey, and so the honey as part of our diet has helped to replenish and grow our gut, and has helped to build like a healthy culture that is able to really effectively digest honey. On top of that, honey has a whole bunch of phytonutrients, a lot of really, healthy chemicals and compounds that help with gut health and help with our ability to feed these microbes. So honey has prebiotic compounds, things that help feed healthy microbes, and honey is selective. So honey doesn't feed nasty microbes. It doesn't naturally have a lot of spoilage organisms that other things do because honey is antibacterial. The cool thing is the bacteria that lives in honey has evolved to be able to survive this antibacterial effect. And what happens to be these bacteria? The healthy gut bacteria that we need to live. So we've evolved with the ability to digest honey, and so naturally mead has a lot of these components in it. And actually, some of the meads that I make are actually probiotic because we're wild fermented, right? So we actually use that lactobacillus, that native culture that we've evolved with, to ferment our products naturally. We just stir raw honey and water, right? So our meads are especially going to be healthy, or healthier. I'm not allowed to say that. Sorry, Surgeon General. But it's going to be, if you're going to choose a poison, I would choose a poison that has healthy gut bacteria to help restore your gut. And people we're not really evolved with beer because we've only had beer for so long. It's kind of funny to think about. I know everybody's like, "Oh my God, we've had beer forever. What are you talking about?" Yeah, but we haven't found artifacts of beer, 10,000 years old in the same way that we have with mead. And we haven't naturally come across mead. 10,000 years is nothing. Let's talk 700,000, right? 700,000 years. We had the ability to literally drink mead that was natural. So you'd have a beehive in like a tree, say a baobab tree in the Kalahari Desert, and it gets washed out by rain. Well, the baobab tree has a huge cavernous section of the tree that's able to hold a hive, honey from the hive, and when rainwater would come, it would wash wash in and it would mix with honey. Well, what's mead really? It's water and honey, right? So those natural microbes would form mead. And so, gosh, I mean, you're really talking about ancient hunter-gatherer societies, or even pre-human, I suppose, drinking mead. So yeah, our guts are just ready for it. They know how to metabolize it. Beer, I mean, you don't wander around, the plains and you find a bunch of fermented barley or whatever. Like, it doesn't work like that, because you got to heat up beer. It's a lot more complicated. It's not a thing where you just scoop it out of a plant and you drink it and you get drunk. You watch the videos of the monkeys, finding fruit on the ground and stuff and getting drunk off it and loving it. Well, we've been drinking mead since we were monkeys. I mean, so like we are meant to drink mead.
Yeah, and so what I'm hearing is drink more mead.
Yeah,
It's good
absolutely.
for the body.
Yes.
I
Much
love
easier
it.
on the body. Mm,
And that is so fascinating. Like when you were describing the honey fermenting in ancient like baobab trees, like that
yeah.
is incredible. Were there archaeological finds? Because you're right in my field. I'm a huge archaeology nut. So was there like what archaeological evidence has there been of like mead practices?
Yeah, so unfortunately, a lot of evidence has been lost because hunter gatherers didn't really keep good notes, unfortunately, at the time. And they moved so sporadically that finding the actual encampments that they would have made, even if they had made any form of really, encampment that we can think of, and so it's interesting. A lot of the materials were biodegradable, of course, and so most of the things they worked on for a long time just kind of got lost in time. It wasn't until we started really working with metals and started carving stuff in rocks and developing language and all that you really start seeing the kind of artifacts that we look for. But that said, classic pottery and things that really came in the ancient times, long after we were just all hunter gatherers. When you start seeing civilization, that's really when we can start looking and discovering things. So a lot of our hypotheses, current hypotheses, are more around where hunter gatherers went to, what kind of vegetation was in that area, what kind of bees were native to that area. And so bees, there were bees native to Africa, there were bees native to Asia is another important one. A lot of ancient, a lot of people still today are collecting wild honey in Asia. You'll find certain groups of folks that will climb up these cliff faces and knock honey down off the cliff, with a long stick, or they climb these, handmade ladders to get to it, and they bring it down in a basket and everything. Well, we've been doing that forever. That's hunter gatherers. So, and there's these ancient bees that have been in Asia, for so long, that's another big spot. So there's a lot of little theories that don't have relics, but we do have relics for, like the island, Crete, for example. We found 8,000 BC artifacts from Crete. We found artifacts in India from around 6,000 BC, China and that region. And Europe really was kind of a late player. If you think about it, bees didn't really get to Europe until a way later date, at least the kind of honeybees we're thinking of. And so, the honeybee was more of an export product from Africa and Asia to the rest of the world. Which is pretty fascinating to think about. All of European, mead history, you can thank the Egyptians for getting mead to the Nile, and from the Nile to the Mediterranean, and then once you get to Greece, you pretty much got the whole seafaring world at your disposal. But before Greece had it, you're pretty much landlocked to Africa. So that's kind of where we come from. The really cool artifacts, in my opinion, are the actual written recipes of making mead. And my favorite ones are like 400s and 500 AD, roughly around that time period. You start seeing the Irish and the Welsh making some really cool like hazelnut meads, and some like really amazing stuff that we got to dredge up and start making again. Because and the cool thing is all the meads back in the day were wild fermented, just like we do at Stardust. And so we're kind of trying to revive that ancient practice, the ancient recipes. And there's something special about that. There's something in there, like we evolve with this stuff. We know this stuff. We know that people loved it back when mead was more popular than any other drink on the planet, they were doing wild mead. And so we want to know what was going on back then, you know? So it's kind of a cool mix. We don't know everything. We were trying to learn things. The best archaeologists can do is, you know, look at hypotheses based around, you know, what was going on at the time that they think. But yeah, the beautiful artifacts really didn't start until about 8,000 BC, and then the written like actual recipes, yeah, you know, not until about 2,000 years ago. It is what it is.
That is fascinating. Thank you so much. I
Mm.
feel like I feel like I'm in the classroom. I love it.
I have a
um,
tendency to do that.
but my first question, because of course that
Mhm.
I have so many, but if someone were to come to Stardust and say, what would be the closest to an ancient mead that you have?
Well, so ancient can mean a lot of things to different people. The way that we at Stardust kind of think about ancient, we do a wild fermented natural mead, right? So we simply combine water and honey, and we stir until it's done. And there's not a third ingredient, which is crazy because most people, you know, everyone assumes like, well, where's the yeast? What do you mean? It's honey, water, yeast. Like, what do you mean? And so, you know, the honey is our starter culture. So if you go to Stardust, the product I would recommend is simply called Ancestral Mead. That would be, you know, it's a good name for it. Two reasons: one, ancestral. It's our ancestors that made it, and when I say our ancestors, I do include everyone. One of the most common things I get is like, "Well, I'm black. What do you mean our ancestors? Aren't you talking about yours?" And I get that a lot. I'm like, "No, dude. You know where more people drink mead than anywhere else on the planet? Africa. It's really cool. But every continent has its own mead history, including America, you know, the Native Americans and all that. And so the one thing that ties all these civilizations together is they had honey and water mixed together, and it wild fermented into a product, and you can taste that product exactly, and it's called ancestral mead. It's a little 375 ml bottle, and we simply bottle it with the living culture still in the bottle, and it finishes fermentation in that way. And so there's actually a little bit of carbonation to the beverage, and it's pretty simple. Every molecule of sugar becomes a molecule of alcohol plus a molecule of carbon dioxide. And so we're able to kind of calculate what the residual amount of honey that needs to be in our bottle for it to perfectly make just the right amount of carbonation. And that's very difficult. That took us about 6 years to really figure out.
6 years. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
that's
anyone
incredible.
anyone who remembers our ancestrals from when we first got started, you know, they were wonky. We couldn't really get it perfectly right. It was always like overcarbonated, undercarbonated, too bitter, too dry, too whatever. And it was kind of funny, you know, or too sour or whatever. And we've slowly over the years perfected it. And it really has taken it took about 6 years really to really get it where like every time we make it, we know it's going to be good. That feels great. But thank you to everybody who supported us in the first 6 years, who put up with us. Really,
It was a rough going.
yeah, yeah. I mean, most of the batches came out pretty good, but you know, it took a while, and it took so long to ferment. You know, we were stirring by hand. Sometimes, I mean, we had 6 month, 8 month fermentations. You know, wild. And I kid you not, like you would see the bricks, like the sugar content dropping month to month. And it took forever, but we were passionate about it. We were going to do it the ancient way, and it was awesome. Well, you know what happens to a wild brewery, meadery, winery, what have you, after a few years? You start to develop a house culture. And so, like the walls, the ceiling, the floors, the air you breathe, you know, has these, everything is in it. You know, microbes just become indigenous to your location. And so now, instead of taking 6 months, it takes 6 weeks on average
Wow.
right now to ferment our meads all the way through. And that's literally just stirring by hand, you know, raw honey and water. And it's really cool because we're starting to give, you know, genetically modified yeast a run for its money. And it's kind of cool to watch that happen. But it's nothing new under the sun. Breweries have experienced that same phenomenon, you know, for a long, long time. You know, way back in the 1300s, they were doing open batch wild beers in Belgium, and they had the same experience. Once they started getting the right beer and it started working, oh my God, that stirring rod was the most coveted item of the family. It was an heirloom. It was the most important heirloom. In fact, they'd rather have that stirring rod than their house. And that's how important it is because that stirring rod contained all of the yeast that you needed to kickstart that fermentation. And it was a wild mix of crazy yeast that just became house cultures. And so that's just what happens eventually. And so we're finally at the point where we're now like a historic, you know, wild meadery where we're now like getting that house culture built, and that spontaneous fermentation is happening faster and faster. And it's really cool to watch.
That is incredible. Like,
Mhm.
not only are you doing something that humans have been doing for thousands of years, but you're doing it in an all natural way that doesn't
Yeah.
include anything genetically engineered. It's all natural, and it honestly sounds as good as drinking an herbal tea.
Yeah. It's like a health tonic in a weird way, you know. I again, I can't put that on the label, but it's it's effectively kombucha, just high alcohol and using local ingredients instead of sugar water. You know, it's
Mhm.
way better.
Yes, and ancestral mead is definitely gonna be on my must-have list at gathering.
Cool. We'll have it.
Yes. So those of you that are tuning in, we are interviewing one of our Norse Forge Gatherings amazing meat vendors, Stardust Meadery, and they will be joining us this Saturday, November 15th in New London, North Carolina at the Boy Scouts Camp of America for Norse Forge Gathering Legacy, which will be a fantasy tavern and MMOR blah. MMORPG, MMORPG. The experience. Uh, that's a tongue twister, but I got to keep trying. And we will be going from 10 a.m. to midnight. So if you are planning to go to Carolina Ren Fest, I'm just saying there's an after party available.
I'll be
Also,
there.
hi, Ashley, hi Tanya, I love you guys. So let's talk gathering legacies. So I personally, I am excited for whatever you guys are bringing. So, would you like to share some of what patrons can be expecting from, because everything you've said has been so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all
Sure.
of the amazing information.
You're
Um,
welcome.
so what can patrons expect from you guys at Gathering Legacy?
Yeah. Well, so we're going to be bringing two different big, styles of mead with us. And so you, as I mentioned, we have the ancestral mead, and that's amazing, and it's historically super cool. And and I'd love for that to be the thing that we really were famous for and really made our money on. But to tell the truth, the thing that's really blown up for the last couple years for us has been session meads, right? And it's easier, it's more approachable, it's light, it's bubbly. It's like you can drink it when you wake up, you can drink it when you go to sleep. It doesn't, you drink it all day long and it's wonderful. And you can thank America for that one. We figured we got session beer on lock. We figured this thing out. It's amazing. I love it. It light, bubbly, just a day drinking mead. And so these are called Funky Ferments is the brand names. We got two brands, Ancestral and Funky Ferments, that we bring in. And so these are just wonderfully fresh, delicious meads. This is an example. So this one's called Everything Nice, Sugar and Spice. It's cinnamon, vanilla, and blood orange mead. That's bubbly, refreshing, and creamy and delicious. Insanely good. I love this mead. So we've got Everything Nice. We've got a country peach. That's just peach. We've got honey buzz. That's our lemon ginger mead. We have a new collaboration mead with Chad's Chai out of Winston Salem. So it's a chai mead that is phenomenal. It's honestly better than I thought it would be. So very excited for that one. And all these are just draft style, refreshing, great meads for the occasion. It's going to be a blast. So we have those, and then for our ancestral meads, we've got our original ancestral mead, but then our very famous lavender mead that people have just gone nuts for at Ren fairs. And we also have our fairy blood, which is a cherry vanilla mead. That's another classic. I've actually been making that one since the beginning, and it's come along. It's been a fun experience honing that one in. But so we have those three staples. We have a nice mix of session meads, and so it's really choose your own adventure with us. The ancestral meads we ferment all the way dry. So they actually go up to 14%. At least that's what's on the label. I don't want to admit that maybe it gets a little stronger sometimes. But anyways, it's so we have the strong session meads, as well. We actually have it's usually around 5% alcohol. We have toyed with some higher ABV canned meads as well. That's kind of hush hush. And then so that's kind of the mix we're gonna have. And it's gonna be a blast. You're gonna love it. We got everything from dry to sweet, bubbly. Meads is our game. So if you like bubbles and you like mead, come hang out, say hi.
Those I am so excited,
Yeah.
especially for the chai one. So here's a kind of off the wall question, but Gathering
Mhm.
Legacy all about fantasy and D&D. If you were to have each mead have a D&D class, what would you class them as?
I mean, honestly, most of my needs are clerics. We're in the healing business over here. We heal the gut, we heal the soul, the soul, and we're here for the healing class. That's how I would define my needs.
I love that. Well, okay, so which one would be our cleric of Saluna?
Yeah, I suppose I'd probably go with the everything nice on that one. It just got the power. It's very special, very refreshing. Like this, it's got this creamy mouthfeel to it that is just absolutely ridiculously refreshing. Like I would drink this faster than I would drink a Coca-Cola. And I'm going to say that to y'all, and I want to challenge you guys to that. I want you to try this and think, is this better than Coca-Cola? And if it is, I would recommend buying more.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is fantastic.
See, when you mention a cherry note, that makes me think of cheer wine. So is it comparable to cheer wine?
No. I know. Now that said, I would be stoked if Cheerwine was up to the task of having a mead made out of Cheerwine because I could definitely do it. I think it'd be really fun. Actually, I've been toying with some rum barreled meads, and Cheerwine rum barrel mead is actually on the docket eventually. I just gotta get it. I just got to get through the whole copyright thing, so I got a few conversations ahead of me. But no, the fairy blood is our cherry mead is way more complex, very nuanced. It's way more rustic. It's kind of got that earthiness and grittiness that I love, and it actually is really popular with whiskey drinkers and people who like a more refined, very mature adult flavor. Like something really, something you sip and savor on. It's a big hit with the Viking folks. So it's a strong, it's a berserker mead if I'm real. Maybe that one's not as much of the cleric. That's kind of the that's more of the mead you drink before you go to battle.
Oh, yeah. That's what, our barbarian berserkers are gonna need.
Exactly.
For sure. So that has got me so excited for all things Gathering Legacies. So, for those folks coming, one of my favorite questions to ask is for you, now that you've been with us since Gathering 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
Now that you've been at the past 3 gatherings, in your opinion, what would you say makes the gathering magic? Like, what
Oh,
makes it
easy.
have that feeling?
Oh,
I
that's an
love
easy answer. Yeah,
first.
no, it's the community, hands down. The community that y'all have, that Norse Forge has created is probably the most beautiful community I've ever seen. I mean, y'all are so connected. It's tight knit. I mean, gosh, you walk around and like this guy over here is making soup and he just handed me bowls of soup as I walk around. These people are like wanting to ask me if I need help with my tent, like left and right. I haven't even started setting my tent up, and people are running up to the car asking if I need help. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I get invited to like 16 after parties, and like, who are all these people? It's amazing, and I've developed some incredible lasting relationships, with a lot of the folks there, and it's happened so fast, and people are it just nobody has the kind of hearts that Norse Forge has, and it's amazing. And I feel like we just like got right into it, and the vibes are amazing. But yeah, it's community hands down, and you can't replicate it, you can't make it up, you can't pull it out of thin air, and by golly, you cannot pay for it. Community happens grassroots. It happens out of love and respect for each other, and it's a beautiful thing. And so I'm just so happy that we're part of that because I think we can carry on that message to a broader community ourselves, and I think that's a lovely thing. So I'm really appreciative of that.
It's such a special thing, and I wonder if we could get a huzzah for Allie. Huzzah for
Huzzah!
Allie! Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And
Yeah.
everything that you've said about the mead community, I feel like is such a great example of the type of people that you meet when it comes to the gathering. Just so welcoming and
Yeah,
so open, and it always comes from the top. So when you
exactly.
see this kind of community and you look up, it's like it's divine intervention.
It is. It's special. You want it to last forever, but it can't, and it just makes it even more special.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. No,
Um,
it's incredible.
yes, and I'm super excited for everything you guys have to bring. Um, So is there anything else that you would like to share with patrons, because Gathering Legacy may be a first time for a lot of folks. So if someone is brand new and they come to Gathering Legacy, they walk into the mead garden, what do you want them to know about Stardust Meadery and you also?
Sure. Yeah, yeah. Well, okay. So, what I want y'all to know about Stardust is we are, a very grassroots, really, burgeoning meadery. I think, and we're finally onto something. And what makes us special is we're a science-driven meadery, and I don't think you see that very often. Most meaderies go by, traditional handed-down recipes or a lot of trial and error, and they kind of figure out as they go. We're one of the only meaderies on the planet that's very science-led, and so we're developing our SOPs with high levels of scientific data that comes in that we're learning from. Every batch is new, and it's important to realize that because we're a wild, spontaneous meadery, no two batches of mead will ever be the same, and that used to piss our distributors off. But now we've got distributors that love it, and we're kind of known for that, and it's something special. So just if you've had one of our products before, like a year ago or what have you, try it again. See if it's different. See if you like the wild culture more that's kind of honed in and evolved in our meadery. It's really fun. And because we're a science-driven meadery, and myself especially, if you have any questions about mead, don't hesitate to ask. I love talking science. I love talking mead. No question is dumb. And a lot of questions actually make me learn, and I love it. So please come to my booth, ask me questions, and chat mead. It's really fun. It's really cool, and not a lot of people are doing it. I just submitted a grant actually to work with Appalachian State University on some really cool research in analyzing the microbiome of mead at 0, 5, 10, and 15% alcohol. And we're going to be looking at how that microbiome shifts over the fermentation curve, and what kind of actual, like real, like species level of bacteria and yeast are growing. And I'm super excited about that research. So if you have any questions about that kind of research or the world of microbiology, wine, mead, what have you, please chat with me. And if you ever want to shoot me an email, stardustsellars@gmail.com, that goes right to me. And if you have mead questions, I usually answer them pretty quickly because honestly, when I'm bored, I like to talk mead. So it's fun. So it's very open. Like really, feel free to do that. And for folks that have never been to Norse Forge before, leave everything you've ever learned about festivals behind you at the door. Because frankly, it's not like that. A lot of places they tell you where you can go. These are the things they market. They dangle little things in front of you to purchase, and they kind of put you in a box, and you're like a sheep in their money making project. At Norse Forge, it's a choose your own adventure. There's like hardly any rules, and if there are rules, people will look the other way. And it's it's really fun to be able to just experience, humans for humans, and what people want to do, what they want to explore, the kind of dresses they want to wear, the people they want to be, and it's really a look at what you want to be and who you want to be. So drop those inhibitions, and if mead will help you do that, drink some mead. Really, and it's such an experience to just let go and just do what you want and become a character or become yourself, whatever that means to you. And it's something special about that.
Yeah, it's so special, and I think you've described it beautifully. And also, sidebar: if you've already tried Stardust mead before, try it again. I
Yeah, we've
know.
gotten better. Yeah.
That's so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of your amazing information. I wonder if we could get a huzzah for Nico. Huzzah!
Thanks, folks.
Yes. But before we wrap up, I wanted to open it up to chat. If you guys have questions, we are in the presence of a mead expert, as it happened, and happens to love chatting mead. So, ask all your mead or Nico related questions.
Hit me.
Hit me with your best shot. Ta-da. Can't resist. I'll start with a question. Do you have a favorite mead that you're bringing? I know you're not allowed to pick favorite children, but if you had to pick a favorite one of the ones
Oh
who
my god.
legacy.
Well, okay, I'll admit to you that my personal special, like, lives in my heart mead, is my honey buzzed. It's my lemon ginger mead. and it's a very special mead to me, because when I was a little kid, my great grandmother, who survived the Great Depression, all these crazy things, no one would question her because she's clearly seen some shit. She, every time I was sick as a kid, she would, stir a little, like, get a little honey, get a little warm, mix in some lemon and some ginger, and then, having survived the Great Depression, obviously she put like a double shot of whiskey and she'd stir it
Naturally.
around and like and then hand it to me. And by God, it really worked. It really worked. Like, it got rid of your colds. You felt better. Like, your chest just felt ready and energized, and you're good to go. And that's such a special thing, and it's so comforting. So when people talk comfort food, actually that's where I go. I'm such an alcohol maker. It's so funny. For me, that's like my comfort food right there, is a glass of whiskey, lemon and ginger and honey, right? And it's very, it's kind of this amazing thing. And so I've always had it in the back of my mind as like this thing that I always wanted to bring into the world. And so I finally got to, and it was actually the first session meat I ever made, because I knew it was what I wanted to do. And I made it, and it was beautiful, and so many people fell in love with it. It got us our first distributors. It got us, outside of North Carolina. It really, it just changed everything. And so when I think that the success of my business and this new big undertaking I did of trying to make session meads for the first time, the fact that so much success has come out of that, and it's been my great grandmother all along who is kind of like smiling at me and sharing this love, and her herself bringing this ancient world of her own, into, she's my ancestor. And so it's so cool to have brought that now into the world, that it will always have a special place in my heart.
I love
Absolutely.
that. That is so sweet. So if you try the buzzed, that one's
Yeah,
like
honey bud.
yeah, honey buzz. That's like sitting at grandma's.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's my yellow can. That's my nod to my great grandmother.
Yeah. So we have a couple of questions. Allie asks if you will have the muscadine mead, and
Oh, hands down.
we will not. Mama asks if you've ever done pine needle mead or heard of.
Hands down. By hands down, I meant there's no way in hell I'm not bringing that, the muscadine mead. Sorry. So yeah, I'm absolutely bringing the muscadine mead. It's going to be amazing. It just won the gold medal. So it was actually rated #1 at the Mazer Cup for bubbly mead, for session meads. So it brought home the gold, which is crazy. I love it. Thinking about a bunch of random ass Californians and Polish people and whatever drinking a muscadine mead, and they don't know what indigenous grapes we have in America. Hardly anyone does. You talk to Californian winemakers, they're like, "Wait, there's grapes from America? Like, what?" And it's so funny to know in a blind tasting muscadine dominated, and that's so cool. So I do love the Sweet Caroline. That's probably my second favorite. But as for pine needles, I have not, and that's super exciting that you say that, because I just met somebody near Charlotte. They're actually at the Charlotte Regional Farmers Market near us, inside the building, and they have fantastic pine honey. So pine needles, I don't know. I'd love to play with it. That sounds fun. But pine honey has a lot of those flavor characteristics. So and one of my favorite IPAs is actually by Fauna Flora, and they do a Pine Zips IPA. It's super cool. It's really good. Love Fauna Flora. And so they've actually done something like that before. So I've actually had that in the back of my mind of like, ooh, if I use a pine honey, that'd be pretty cool. So I'd actually love to do a pine honey. So I might, yeah, that's been in the back of my head for a long time, but now you say that, I might move it forward a few steps.
I gotcha. Well, now
Yeah.
you've got me curious. Are you allowed to share with us any teasers that you might be preparing for Gathering Six or for
Mm.
2026?
Mm. Well, I can share. I have a mead that's not going to be ready till 2026. That's pretty fun. I'm actually doing a collaboration mead right now, with a coffee shop that's actually based in Boone. It's called Bald Guy. Bald Guy Coffee. So we're actually doing a collaboration mead right now. That's going to be a heavy chocolate, carbonated chocolate coffee mead. And it's to die for. I'll be honest with you. It's probably the most delicious thing on the planet, and it's extremely fun. It's really tasty. A lot of people have made coffee meads before, and they're cool, they're nice, but there's like this bittering, there's this sourness that just it's really hard to balance right. And we just found in playtesting it, the thing that really balances coffee is something that's equally as intense. More bitter, more intense, more flavor to kind of mask the coffee and kind of balance it out. And the funny thing is, like, we were adding chocolate, and it was like, oh, this is good, like a cool nuance, more chocolate, more chocolate. And eventually, we were like, fuck it, what happens if we just add so much chocolate that it's just like an overload of chocolate? It's like a chocolate bomb. And at the time, it was like, well, that would cost a lot of money. I don't think we should do it. And then we started getting some pretty good distribution orders in, and things started to look kind of good. And I was like, fuck it, what if we put $1,000 of chocolate in a 200-gallon fermenter? What would happen? And by golly, good things. So we're actually launching this, and I've never told anybody about this. This is actually top secret at Stardust, but screw it, I like you guys. So we're actually going to be launching that right ahead of Valentine's Day, 2026. So I will save y'all some, and it's going to be really cool. I'm really excited about it. I've been really excited about this one for a long time.
Oh,
Yeah, it's fun. The other cool thing I wanted to mention is we came out with a standard mead, so it's a canned mead. It's a 9.7%er. And what I did was I actually took, we ferment like 10 tanks a month worth of mead. Like we make a lot of mead. And so there's a lot of opportunities to kind of find your favorite mead out of that. And so there's one batch of mead this year that we name all of our meads in process. So they actually have these really cool, fun names. And so this one we code named Jasmine. And it was just this beautiful like florality that to me tasted as good. And I've been to Japan a couple times. I've tried a lot of sake. I love sake. This mead reminded me of some of the best floral bubbly sakes I've ever had, and it's phenomenal. And so we have a small amount of it that we're sitting on right now that's at our tasting room, and I'm planning to bring a little bit of it to the gathering. So it's going to be really great. And the other one is a bourbon barrel aged mead that is just stupid good. We only have like one or two cases left, so I might sneak some in and hide it. And if someone asks me for it, I might have it. But it's phenomenal. It's a 10.4%. We aged it in bourbon for 6 months. It's just phenomenal. And the same thing. So we took two different fermentations across all of 2025. That were my two favorite fermentations. And so the first one was jasmine, and the second one was a phenolic, beautifully phenolic. Like the wild fermentation just really brought out these incredible like smoky characteristics. So we put it in a barrel. We actually got four barrels in from Kentucky, and we let them sit in those barrels until they got rich, and oh my god, it is incredible. And we've had beer drinkers go crazy for it. We've had whiskey drinkers go crazy for it, and we've had mead drinkers just go bananas. And I'm so excited for it. It's so good. It's like I don't know. It's amazing. It's a beautiful thing. You can't really beat honey and bourbon together. It's a beautiful combination. So those are the fun things that we've got on the docket. And then around May, we're actually relaunching a crowd favorite from 2019 that has been top secret for the last few years that we've been working towards. But we're going to actually revamp our blueberry basil mead. And we're gonna make it even better than before. It's gonna be smoother than ever. It's gonna be incredible. But yeah, the blueberry basil was actually a lot of people's favorite mead from back in the day. But we couldn't get it to work in the format as well. Distributors didn't know what to do with it. But it was like a cult. It was like a cult classic. It suddenly people started talking about it. People would come up to us and be like, "Are you ever gonna make that again?" And it slowly started to just happen more and more and more, and we'd hear about it. And so we're gonna do it. And so the goal is around May or so, we're gonna relaunch our blueberry basil. It's gonna be a canned bubbly session mead format. And it's gonna be delicious, absolutely delightful. So those are some of the things in the works. And again, I've never told anybody about any of these things, but I like y'all, so we'll make it.
so here's what I'm hearing. Number one, uh, Valentine's Day party at Stardust. I'll bring the donut.
Hmm. Hmm.
And at Gathering Legacy, you're gonna have a speakeasy.
There might be a few things hidden under my sleeves.
Oh, you could have a passcode for people that are watching live.
Yeah, right?
I
Hmm.
original. You'll have to come up with something.
You choose something. What should it be? I'll write
The
it
first
down.
the first thing that pops into my head is, "No, that's my purse." But that's how my brain works. Hi, friend. I love you. Yes, and also,
Oh, yeah.
Ali wants to know if the chocolate coffee one will be available at G6.
What was the date of it? Remind me.
Memorial Day weekend, uh, end of May.
Yes. I'll have some. I'll reserve some for it. So yeah, so we'll have the chocolate coffee ML and we'll have the blueberry basil for that one. And I'll make a note. I'll just make sure I save some for it because y'all deserve it. It's gonna be great.
You're amazing. You deserve everything.
Cool.
May okay, so Ali came in May 22nd through 24th.
Perfect. Okay, I
Amazing.
got you.
On the
Yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it big. It's gonna be great.
we're gonna have it. We're gonna have that
Awesome.
bourbon mead, that coffee
Okay.
chocolate mead, the blueberry basil's making a comeback. All good
Oh
things.
yeah. It's gonna be wild. And yeah, actually May is gonna be great because that's when we're bottling the next batch of bourbon barrel aged mead. We do it once every 6 months and we only make 70 cases, once every 6 months. And so it's very special. Our distributors demand all of it, and we fight them. We hiss at them, and we reserve a small allotment for our farmers markets and festivals that we really like. So the Ren Fair, so that actually is going to be awesome. We will have bourbon barrel aged for y'all.
That is amazing. So you better make sure if you come to gathering 6 that you get there early enough so you can score some of these incredible meads because what an amazing lineup. I know several people. I saw Mama in the comments said that the bourbon barrel aged mead was for her. And my best friend, huge fan of anything bourbon barrel aged. So I'm going to have to score some for him as well.
Awesome. Yeah, they're amazing. It's absolutely incredible.
Yes.
It kind of shocked me.
So chat, do you guys have any more questions for our amazing meat vendor Nico? I love, by the way, I love seeing everybody's names. This it makes me so happy to see everybody coming in and saying hi and just it reminds me of were you there for the Gherkin lives?
The Kirkin lives. I don't even know. I don't remember.
Oh no. When I see you at Legacy, we're gonna have to talk Gherkin lore.
Okay, deal.
Okay. Norse wants to know when can we start drinking? I mean,
Do you have mead in front of you right now?
that implies someone said stop. See, I'm
I think
all
now.
I, I gotta come get some from you on Saturday.
Deal.
Okay, here's another good question. What type of honey do you use for your meads? Which I think you answered earlier, but beautiful, beautiful response. I love it.
Yeah, so I mean, we use what's local, right? We like to define our honey as foothills honey, the Appalachian foothill region, because a lot of people think, oh, North Carolina honey, wonderful. Well, you know, we only use honey that has North Carolina, ingredient like North Carolina flowers and something. But you have to think a lot of these bees travel a long ways. There's a lot of mixing and everything, and it's more regional. So when you think about like a microclimate, it's going to be, you have the mountains as a climate, you have the foothills, you have that, Piedmont region, you have the coast, you have different microclimates. And so when I like to talk about honey, I like to define it as the Southern Appalachian foothills, because we're more in common. We're a lot more in common than the high mountains. We have a lot more in common than us in the coast. So it's when you say North Carolina honey, it doesn't really mean the same. Like I'd much rather focus on a region than all of North Carolina. Because if I was buying a bunch of coastal honey and making it here in the foothills, It's just not the same. I might as well be buying Dutch clover from freaking like Michigan or whatever crap. And so we make specifically foothills, foothills honey. And so we only buy from people here in North Carolina, but I don't track down how far the bees go. I mean, I'm sure some cross into Virginia, South Carolina, whatever, but that doesn't matter because I know that those bees are going to be sticking around the foothills. And so that's what we use for all of our honeys. And so in our region, what we're really famous for is our sourwood, and that's my favorite honey to work with. You'll actually notice a lot of our meads have a nutty characteristic that you don't really find in other meads so much, and that's because whenever we have the opportunity to, we use sourwood, and it's a little bit more expensive, but the quality is phenomenal. Just this like rich, nutty, beautiful honey. And the funny thing, when you say sourwood, I'm talking 51%, or more. There's no 100% sourwood. I mean, you have to have a really extreme year where everything else just happens to not be in bloom. Only the sourwood's in bloom to have 100%. That's never happened before, as far as I know. But so we prefer dominant sourwood honeys. And that said, the difference between a 51% sourwood and a 49% sourwood is the difference between calling it a sourwood and a wildflower honey. And so I can't say that we're not using, a ton of wildflower honey as well. And there's a lot of wildflowers, in the late season, like just this last month, we were getting like asters and goldenrod, and that was getting a whole lot of that, and before that we had a lot of sourwood going, and before that we got, beechwood, locust honey, and all sorts of fun things like that. So it's very diverse. I like to talk more about what flowers were in bloom at the time, as opposed to where exactly it happened, because it's really about the seasonality. I mean, mead, honey is such a seasonal thing as opposed to like one specific geographic thing. It's kind of cool because in one location could have a completely different environment, a different season than it did the year before, or what have you. So really, you'd have to break it down into vintage year, into what the rain was like at that time. Which hill did you actually get the honey from? So that's how I like to talk about my honey. It's really what is around us, and the region and the terroir. To steal from the wine world. What is the terroir of our mead? And so our terroir is defined by the local foothills and by the wild honey that is indigenous to the foothills of southern Appalachia.
That is incredible. So you're literally tasting the environment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something I learned that was interesting from Lisa, who is the forest shade, was that game can taste different depending on what it's eaten, like depending on what time of year or the season. If you were to brew the same mead during different times of the year, is it going to taste different based off the flowers?
Oh yeah, well, massively different. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's totally different, totally different. So yeah, I mean, your sourwood honey is going to be like a nutty, rich component, but you're going to have way different aromatics going throughout the year. Like early in the season, you don't get any nuttiness. I mean, it's really kind of a light, beautiful florality that you get, in the earlier season. Like your crazy wildflowers you get in April and May. Beautiful. There's absolutely beautiful flavors and aromatics for it. So if you're getting like an earlier season honey, you kind of want to bucket it a little bit different than a later season honey. So certain meads I like to make earlier in the year versus later in the year, simply because the kind of honey that's available at that time of year is going to just really help that flavor mature. And that it's very complicated, and you have to really know like the rain pattern for the year. You have to really watch the weather to know where the good honeys are, what time of year to buy from. And so I work with a lot of beekeepers, right? And we have to. We're one of the largest meaderies. We are actually, I think we are the largest meadery in the South now. And so we have to, we have to have a long list of beekeepers we work with. And so every beekeeper is going to be able to tell me, and we talk all the time, like, hey, how's it going? Like, is the bloom in your area? Are you on the sourwood yet? Are you, where are you at right now? How's the rainfall hitting you? I know it hit here really hard. It's really cool because you kind of become this part-time meteorologist, as you kind of figure out, where the honeys are popping off, and who has what at the right time. And it's really fun to see, just what you can do with that.
That's amazing. We do have a couple more questions. What is the wildest flavor that you have infused into mead, and how many APs do you have in total?
Okay, I work with right now. I think we have about 16 different apiaries that we have on like a call list. So and a lot of people, some people we hit up more often than others. You know, it's kind of like we have people that are, you know, and price is a factor. Unfortunately, I hate that it is. But you know, in order to get a product that I can get to distributors, we're kind of limited to, you know, our price point. And so we honestly can't, like our canned meads. We don't spend more than $260 per 5 gallon bucket, and that's, you know, a lot of the meaderies in North Carolina, the bigger ones, that's kind of the going rate for honey these days. And it sucks because it kind of limits you as to how many people you can really work with. So we've kind of got it down to about 16 different apiaries that we work with across the foothills, across the region, and most of them are going to be in Wilkes County. Like we have one or two in Forsyth. We got a few as far south as Mecklenburg, and we go you know, all the way up north to the border of Virginia and all that. So it's kind of, that's kind of our region that we kind of honed in on, the foothills, you know. So it's a kind of a widespread there. Um, as for as for the wildest flavor you've ever infused into mead, I will tell you, um, I wanted to make a really, really crazy mead. I wanted to make a black mead. I wanted to make something that was ink black naturally, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to figure out what the heck I could do to get something super dark. And I was reading into ancient. Yeah, I'm kind of a nerd, you know. Obviously, you know, I'm a big fan of Sandor cats and other fermentation, you know, neat nerds and what have you. And I was reading about Native American fermentation skills, like medicinal things they did, and I got really into condiment making, like really fun, like unique ingredients, right? And so I discovered that the Native Americans were making a black fermented condiment that was very much like ketchup out of something that grows here all over the place, black walnuts.
Ah.
So yeah, and so I actually I fermented black walnuts with the skin, and the skin actually has a lot of that color component to it that'll blacken it. And so we we took black walnuts apart, and we actually did a spontaneous fermentation of black walnut and honey, and let it go, and actually darkened. Yeah, it it was wild. Yeah, it really did. It turned the meat. We got it black. We got it like fully dark, like squid ink black, pretty much. And it was really really cool. You know, put it on tap at my tasting room in Wilkes at the time, and nobody understood what the heck that were. Nobody got it. Everyone was like, "Why did you do this? What is wrong with you?" I mean, it was earthy. It was earthy. It was all get out. Oh my god, it was rough around the edges, and but by golly, I drank a lot of it. It was really cool just to experience like the flavors of a wild fermented walnut. It had kind of this weird like earthy, gritty. Oh, you know, maybe ketchupy. I guess I don't know. That's kind of a. I think the Native Americans maybe they're kind of loosely calling it ketchup because I don't know, but but it was really fun. It was a cool experiment. So, you know, I love doing it. It was super goofy. But that was probably the weirdest thing I've ever made in a mead.
It's not just a phase, Mom.
No, it's not. No, and before I was doing meat as a kid, I was the kid with the jars with the giant scobies floating around. You know, I made kombucha when I was a kid. My mom would have laughed so hard at what you just said. Oh my god, because I was always the kid, and she was just like, "What the hell are you doing in my kitchen? Like, what on earth are you growing? It looks like brains or like like what, you know, like body, like you're like stuffing formaldehyde body parts in jars or something, just super weird." That's, you know, that's, it's kind of funny. So I've always been that kid, you know.
Never stop experimenting, please.
No, no, it's a good life lesson there. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Oh, and someone, I just noticed somebody mentioned pawpaws. I wanted to mention that when our new tasting room that we're building right now in downtown Mooresville, when that opens, we're actually going to have a pawpaw mead on tap, and it's going to be super small batch limited release because I grew these pawpaw trees from babies, and I grew them up, and they're my sweet little babies, and it finally has grown big enough that it's fruiting, and it started popping off off little baby pawpaws. And so if you ever come to Wilkesboro, to our Wilkes tasting room location, I've actually started transplanting my babies. And so I'm starting a little edible forest in the backyard of our tasting room. And so I've got these little pawpaw babies that are growing, and you'll get to see them. I've got like five of them out in like one in each quadrant of our little pollinator garden. And the pollinator garden has nothing in it yet. It's just literally a few pawpaw trees and the hopes and dreams that I'll eventually be able to fill this whole thing as an edible forest.
Oh,
But you know, it'll be a biodynamic edible forest, which is pretty cool. So I love pawpaws. They have a special place in my heart. You know, and they've got a lot of history. George Washington demanded a pawpaw every day of the Revolutionary War, brought to him on ice. It's indigenous species of Caribbean fruit that it's just become a North Carolina staple. It only grows next to streams. It grows sideways. The roots grow sideways instead of down because it goes and looks for creeks. And scientists have said that the pawpaw is actually going to be the last tree on the planet because it has the highest range of temperatures that it can grow in. And so when all the other trees start to wilt and die, the things that all of our great 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 grandkids are going to be hiding under for protection from the sun and from whatever the hell radiation's coming at that time through our atmosphere, it's going to be the pawpaw. So plant more pawpaws. Do it for our future generations. It's a very special plant, and it's native to North Carolina, and it's so cool.
that is amazing. Yes, I hope we can plan like a big excursion to come out and visit because what a beautiful nursery those little baby plants have. That's
Yeah.
so precious.
Yeah, it's super fun. Yeah, and we've got little sheep that wander around, you know, because we're biodynamic certified, so we have to have animals on the property, and you know, and a whole bunch of other things. But it's that's a whole that could be a whole another hour long discussion on what biodynamics is. But it's kind of fun. So we actually have the only biodynamic pawpaws in the world, which is really cool. You know, we have the only biodynamic muscadine in the world because we're the only people certified in the entire South by Demeter for biodynamics. So it's kind of fun. But anyways, that's a whole nother tangent.
That's incredible. Can we get a huzzah for Stardust Cellars? Huzzah! I love that. Well, before we end the live, do you have any final thoughts you would like to share?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, I could just say it's been really cool meeting you. I'm so glad to be part of this, and I'm just really, really excited for this. You know, we look forward to these events all year, and it kind of feels like coming home in a way. So I'm just really excited to see y'all, excited to share some mead with y'all, and you know, shoot me questions if you got them. Let's have a blast. I'm really excited to see y'all out there.
Amazing. And that contact link is stardustsellers@gmail.com. Feel
Yeah,
free to
that's my email.
amazing. Feel free to send him any questions you have that is mead related or history related because I feel like I've gone through a whole history lesson and I am ever so grateful for the time that you have spent with me. Thank you so, so much. And I cannot wait to see you on Saturday.
Yeah. Oh my god, I'm so ready. This is gonna be a blast, y'all.
Yes, it's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited for the little
Yeah.
garden and just like you said, seeing y'all's faces is part of the experience. It's just it's like family. It's like you reunite with your family every time you come to one of these gatherings and who could ask for anything better?
We're so ready for it.
Yeah. And one more huzzah for the North Forge family! Huzzah, Ali! Huzzah, Jeremy! Y'all sit here and get loved.
Right.
Yes, which is what we will be doing on Saturday. Everyone will sit down and get loved and have an amazing time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again, Nico. And got to do the little heart hands of gratitude. Yay! Thank you so much. I love
Thanks
it.
for having me. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys soon.
Absolutely. See you this weekend.
Okay, love y'all. Bye.
Bye.